which is the Mumbai franchise. Last year, they had taken a punt on Jofra Archer, and they had bought him despite knowing that he won't be available for the season. And a lot of fans were looking forward to the pairing of Jasprit Bumrah and Jofra Archer in this year's tournament. But as fate would have it, now Jasprit Bumrah is not available, and neither is Jair Richardson, who they had bought in the auction. So uh, things don't look great for Mumbai. Rohit Sharma's form is another thing that hasn't really clicked for them over the last 6-7 seasons. So coming to both of my co-experts, what do you think? Are Mumbai's chances this season?
Again, I mentioned the summary of Kolkata. If it all clicks, they could come third or fourth, but they most likely 8th to 10th looks very similar. I mean, it's so similar in terms of how they really, really need their key performers to have amazing seasons, and that's a lot to ask. Historically, that would be extremely unlikely. So I think they've got big problems ahead.
Somesh?
Yeah, I mean, see, I was just thinking that were Mumbai better off last season not having Archer but having Bumrah instead than this time around when they've lost Bumrah and now have to fill that spot with an overseas pacer? Because there is no replacement for Bumrah in the domestic circuit. So I feel they are in a bigger hole this time around, at least in that department. But just my thoughts on how the last season was, I think a lot of their problems were self-created because for some reason they wanted to play Devil Brevis early on, and then that resulted in them tampering with Suryakumar Yadav's batting position. That also resulted in them dropping Tim David after a couple of games. So last season it took them a while to identify their best 11, which actually included Tim David and have batting Sky at his normal position. So with that in mind, I think this season, hopefully, they do not tamper with their batting a lot because that has not changed. They still have the same batting lineup, at least the same personnel. But yeah, I mean, there is a Bumrah sized gap, and not to forget, there is no go-to spinner in the team. So yeah, I mean, ahead of the mega auction, I was just actually thinking that there is no chance that Mumbai won't buy Rahul Chahar back because he was reasonable for them. But then they did not only buy Rahul Chahar, but they did not buy any proven spinner. So I think that will hurt them in this season as well, unless and until Kumar Karthike really spins a surprise. Yeah, Gurkit, I think you're on mute.
I think in the mega auction they did try to buy someone like UZ Chahal, but Rajasthan had outbid them. What was surprising was that in this auction they didn't even try to get one of Adam Zampa or Adil Rashid. That was surprising to me. Uh, Now, before we delve further into what is their possible 11 and who could be their impact players and everything else, there's been some a school of thought and some questions revolving around, can Rohit bat at number 5 or 6, which allows maybe for someone like a Cameron Green to open with Ishan Kishan. Now I'm not too big on that idea because I feel Rohit has started to take the role of a power play basher, and he'd like to continue in that role rather than come and bat at 5-6. What are the thoughts that both of you have on this idea?
Personally, I don't like it. I don't see the need for it. Why would you change a player? The only reason why you change a player who's opened the whole of his career in this league is because you don't believe in him as an opener anymore. Because I don't think Cameron Green as an opener is proven even slightly enough to warrant moving your captain down to number 6. So I feel that it wouldn't be a move in favour of Green's ability. It would be almost like a defensive move because there's a lack of belief in Rohit. And this ultimately, we go back to the auction strategy and the retention strategy. And I just think that Mumbai have made so many mistakes over the last 2 years with their recruitment. When you look at the fact that they spent almost 50 crore between Green, Rohit, and Ishan Kishan, I mean, it's so top heavy. And it was so obvious ahead of last year's mega auction that if they were to spend anything in excess of 10 crore on Ishan Kishan, and he was always going to cost much more than that. I mean, I had him down as about 15 minimum. Now, if they were to spend more than 10, it was pretty much impossible for them to recruit a strong bowling lineup. It was so obvious that was the case, and that's exactly how it played out. And then they compounded it by spending a lot of money, a lot more than I thought that he would go for, on a player who wasn't even available last season, Jofra Archer. So then that's bitten them again this year. They got unlucky with Bumrah being injured, and I hope that they don't use that as an excuse, because I think that the problems with their recruitment go a lot deeper than that. And yeah, there's no spinner again. They spent an absurd amount of money on a very unproven all-rounder in Cameron Green, and I just think to myself, I would rather buy like Hayden Kerr for 50 lakh and spend the difference on the best available spinner and the best domestic pacer. That would to me make so much more sense in terms of this balance and the fact that they're almost trying to fill 11 with some form of combination with the bowling, and we know that bowling strength wins tournaments. I just don't see it with this team, and I think that it's been really poorly constructed.
Okay, I want to know from both of you, what's your probable 11, or what is your best 11 for Mumbai?
For me, it's very, very, very difficult to predict an 11, and still there's similar difficulties to the KKR situation. This is what I went for. So obviously Rohit opening in that typical position for him, with Ishan Kishan, Tilak Varma, who I really rate very highly as a young player, and is a player who I think really can achieve great things in cricket in the future. Suryakumar Yadav and Tim David. Now, the positive for Mumbai is that 3-4-5 is about as good as it gets in the competition, and that is something that they're going to have to really, really bank on if they're going to be successful this year. Green at 6, I don't love it, but they're obviously going to play him. And then we've got a couple of sort of spin all-rounders, Shams Maloney, who I'm surprised actually hasn't had more IPL game time over the last few years, because he's done pretty well at lower levels generally, because he's pretty consistent. And Hrithik Shakeen providing the off-spin matchup. And then you've got Jofra Archer, Jason Behrendorff, and the right-arm pace of Akash Madwal. So I don't love it at all, that 11, but I'm struggling to really see any other combos that add any better value than that.
I had a look at your 11, and I think if there's an overseas player who's too bad at number 6, you'd rather have someone like Tristan Stubbs, who actually bats in that position for South Africa and was batting at 5-6 in the SA20 as well, rather than having a Cameron Green. But I do feel that given the cost that they've bought Cameron Green for, they would probably play him ahead of both Brevis and Stubbs. At number 7, I have a feeling that they might go for someone like Ramandeep, because when they dropped Pollard for the last 3 games of the previous season, they had Ramandeep play in that position, and they bowled him at various stages. He was also batting decently, I would say, not quite well. So there's that. And the Indian pacer that you've picked, I mean, you've picked Akash Madwal, and it could easily be Arshad Khan, or it could even be, I don't know, maybe Arjun Tendulkar finally getting a game. We don't know. So the Indian pacer who they pick, I suppose, there's not a lot to choose from, because all of them are going to be potential picks, and none of them is a proven bowler anyway. But I was surprised that you picked Ritik Shokeen over someone like Kumar Karthike. Any particular reason?
Just because you've already got the left arm orthodox in Shams Malani already.
Okay, okay.
But
In
isn't
in
7 too high for Shams Fulani in Dan?
Yeah, but what I don't, this is the problem with the balance. They don't really
Yeah.
have any decent domestic all rounders. That for me is the major problem.
Sumesh, your 11. What do you think?
I personally want Rohit to bat 5 or 6. To be honest, I want
Okay.
Green to open because it's pretty clear the amount of money they've spent on Green. They can't drop him. They have to play him. And if they're building for future, then that's the right way to go. There have been a couple of instances for India lately where Rohit actually batted in the middle order because of a fractured finger or something, and was sort of blasted pace. And he is actually batting. He has been batting carefree cricket in a carefree manner for a while now. So might as well try his luck in the middle order. Uh, so yeah, that's that. I mean, top six remains the same essentially, with Green, Kishan, Tilak, Sky, Rohit, David, and then at number 7, I also had Ramandeep and Archer, Bendorf have to play. There is no chance that they can make that 11 without two overseas pacers, and then Kumar Karthike and Ritik Shokhi.
Yeah. My 11's similar to Somesh, but I just have someone like Christian Stubbs in place of Cameron Green because
That will
yeah,
make sense, but the point is, then it
yeah,
just
but
everything looks
yeah,
so stupid. I mean, you're spending
yeah,
17 crores on a player only to bench him.
yeah, I agree. uh one important question over here is someone like Ishan Kishan. Now here's a player who they bought for the explosive value that he brings to the 11 or to the batting order. But if you look at how he batted in the last season, he did score 400 runs, all right, but his strike rate wasn't great. It was I think around 120, and in the power play, it was even lesser. He was adopting a role of an anchor who could go big, and his dot ball percentage, regardless of which white ball format it is, whether you look at ODIs or T20Is or even in the IPL, his dot ball percentage is towards the higher side. It's if I'm not wrong, it's 50% plus in ODIs. In IPL as well, it's above 45% or 40% surely. Uh, is there a chance that if Ishan Kishan doesn't have a good season, if say in the first half Ishan Kishan doesn't fire, do you look at someone like Vishnu Vinod and replace him with Vishnu Vinod? Because this is not the first time that Mumbai have dropped someone like Ishan Kishan. They dropped him for Yuvraj Singh in 2019. They dropped him, I think, even in 2020 because he was not, or maybe no, it was 2021. In 2021 they did drop him. In 2020 he was having a very good season. Is there a possibility that someone like Ishan Kishan can get replaced by Vishnu Vinod, who's also a high intent keeper batsman?
Not for me, I don't think, because again, as Somesh said with Cameron Green, made the point about Cameron Green. You don't spend that amount of money on someone if you're going to bench them, and I think that it was a really emotional pick actually from the franchise to bring him back for such big money last year in the mega auction. And yeah, that's ultimately how I see it. I think that they're going to give Ishan Kishan as long a run as they need to give him. And you're right, Gurkharat, in that the dot percentage consistently over the 40% mark in Indian Premier League seasons, and the only year that he really was fantastic, where he averaged 57 and struck at 146 in 2020, his dot percentage was way closer to 30% and 40%. So that's clearly an area that he needs to work on, I think.
Somesh, do you see someone like Vishnu Vinod getting a game somewhere, and maybe even Arjun Tendulkar?
Uh, I don't think so. But I do feel that if Ishan Kishan doesn't have a good season, I see him. I see Mumbai releasing him ahead of next season because of the sheer volume of money that they've spent on him. And I think there will come a point where teams realize that openers is a department where you are spoiled for choice. So if you're spending 14 crores on an opener, that opener has to be AB de Villiers marrying Chris Gale.
Fair enough. Okay, which player now Bumrah's obviously not there again, but which player do you think is the most indispensable to this squad now after Bumrah?
Wow, what a question for this particular team. I was tempted to go with Sky because he's just such an outstanding T20 batter, but I actually switched and went for Jofra Archer because I think that a fully fit Jofra Archer is the player that they need to have some form of a chance. You know, an Archer who is a purple cap contender, going at 8 economy, for example. That's one way I can see that they might have a chance of qualification. If Archer is injured, I really fear for this team.
For me, I think if Sky uh, is not able to win them 4 games, there is a very high chance that they'll finish at the bottom of the table.
Hmm. Uh, I myself think that if Mumbai are to reach the top four, then they need someone like Suryakumar Yadav to have the kind of season which David Warner had for Hyderabad in 2016, because I see teams exploiting the issues that Ishan Kishan has in his game. Uh, Even Tilak Verma, I felt that last season teams weren't really aware of what to bowl to him and what to bowl at him, because he there was an obvious weakness that I could see in Tilak Verma, which was against the short ball. I don't think teams are going to bowl spin at him. So I do feel that in that top three there is enough, there are enough weaknesses for good bowling lineups to exploit. Uh, but yeah, if like I tend to agree with Somesh that if Suryakumar Yadav is not winning them 3 or 4 games, very difficult for this team uh, to end up ahead of the bottom three, or in the top seven. If Suryakumar Yadav loses form, very difficult to see how teams can, then how Mumbai can win games, because the 4 overs of Jofra are a factor even for Kolkata, right? And Jofra was there in MI Cape Town in SA20 as well, and there was not only Jofra, there was Rashid as well, but MI still couldn't really make it to the last four. So yeah, I think Jofra's impact might still be manageable, but without Suryakumar Yadav doing the heavy lifting, very difficult to see this team, even end up in the top half. Forget the top four.